All right, this is Mike Cosgrove with Pro Concepts Podcast for PCIA. Got a good friend and colleague here today, Norm Pappas. Hi, Norm.
Glad to be here with you.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. So Norm's with Pappas Financial out of Farmington Hills, Michigan. And Norm, I always, the first thing I always like to do is ask the question, what's your favorite business book of all times?
I would say How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, yeah. That's an awesome one for sure.
Dale
Definitely.
Carnegie.
That's I don't know if we've ever talked about this or not, but I did Dale Carnegie probably 20 some odd years ago. And I was extremely shy as a kid, even through high school and somewhat in college as well. But I feel like Dale Carnegie, and I know the local Dale Carnegie instructor. I actually just had lunch with him a few weeks back, and I said to him, after I did Dale Carnegie, I think it was maybe even close to 25 years ago, it felt like being let out of jail. It had nothing to do with public speaking. It had everything to do with just being comfortable in your own skin, communicating like we are right now, but then also it's got a public speaking element to it, of course, but I'm a huge component of Dale Carnegie.
One of my clients has become the president of Dale Carnegie nationally, internationally.
Wow.
Yeah.
How amazing is that?
Yeah.
Any idea how many chapters?
I
have?
don't.
Yeah.
Be a good question for him.
It's a great business. I mean, I literally, any young person, I talk about that constantly because it's one of those things. It was like a defining moment in my life. Was Dale Carnegie did just a tremendous job. So
it teaches people how to treat other people.
Sure, exactly, right.
It's every business is a people business.
Sure.
If you don't learn those principles,
right,
you're not going to be successful.
Just the common courtesy: do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Please and thank you. I mean, all that good stuff. A firm handshake if we're still shaking hands in today's world, But yeah, I think all those things are should be embedded in all of us.
I was with somebody earlier today, and he said the good thing about COVID is you don't have to shake people's hands. So I don't offer up unless they offer to me, and then I'll shake their hand. I won't not.
Right. Yeah, and it's funny. I've reached out to shake hands and had some people give me a fist bump, or they're like, "Hey, let's do an elbow," or what. I mean, it didn't make any difference to me, but I do think as human beings we need some human interaction and touch and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that's good. So Norm held out on me because I've known Norm for years, and when I asked about his favorite book when we had a call last week, he shared with me his own book called Passing the Bucks that Norm wrote, and I got a copy here today that Norm brought me, but tell us about Passing the Bucks.
So 70% of all businesses fail to get to the second generation, and I wanted to do a how-to book for business owners that was an easy read. So the first part's all about succession planning, and the second part's about estate planning. You don't want to work your whole life and throw a lot of money away in taxes.
Sure.
You can avoid it.
Awesome.
Now, you're successful with succession planning in terms of
being second generation.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
no, it's interesting. My oldest daughter is 18 now, and we take her out of state. She's going to Miami University at Miami of Ohio. And so we take her tomorrow and get her moved into school. But I've already, with Norm's help, I have had her sign all of the paperwork, the power of attorney and just all that stuff that you don't really think about when you've got a child now that's 18. But all the things are now in place so that we can make sure to take care of her and protect her if she needed us to step in there somehow. So Norm, before we kind of dive into the business side, tell us something of interest about you, something a lot of people don't know maybe.
Well, I still play tennis 3 times a week, and I play tournaments, and I've had a national ranking in Midwest and Southeast Michigan. So
nice.
Keep in shape and keep the competitive juices going.
Sure. Now, you go out to Arizona somewhat as well, don't you?
Yeah, that's another thing. We have gotten a little bit involved in Arabian horses, so that's something I don't talk about too much.
Okay. Yeah. And you say we, is that you and your wife? You and
the company? I have a couple of business partners.
Okay, nice. Awesome. Well, congrats. So today's podcast is the top 6 ways to protect your business and family. And Norm, I think when you and I spoke before, I mean, your company really is a family office.
Yeah, we act as a family office in planning strategies for clients.
Okay, so share with the group what does family office mean? I mean, some people may not be familiar with that term.
Yeah, that's more of a holistic approach to planning. So if you said, like the 6 areas we'll get into are, one of them is business succession planning.
Okay.
Another one is employee retention and attraction through benefits.
Okay.
Another one is estate planning.
Sure.
Another one is security planning, insurance planning. Another one is investment planning. And another one might be tax planning.
Well, there's all 6. I guess the podcast is over.
No. Well, you could get into the details, but the point is most offices don't do all of those things.
Sure.
So if you're in business, a business would have an accounting department, a legal department, and a finance department. And we act as the finance department, helping to coordinate these planning activities. So as a family office, it can vary. Sometimes people want us to pay bills.
Okay.
Sometimes they want us to create an income for them after they've retired.
Sure.
So
I'd like you all to pay my bills. How does that? How do?
You're a young guy yet, but
Well, I meant, where's that money coming from?
So you have an investment portfolio.
Sure.
And there may be things you just don't want to deal with.
Right.
So we will do that. That's more for the elderly.
Sure.
People that may not have kids that are helping them.
Sure.
But the family office is more holistic planning.
Okay.
All these aspects of planning.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. So you kind of rattled off very quick because this is a space that you're in all day, every day. I mean, Norm is one of those types of people that Saturday morning I might be sipping a cup of coffee out on my front porch and he's calling me at 8:30 saying, "Hey, what'd you decide about that disability insurance?" or whatever the case might be, right? So I know that Norm works a tremendous amount of time and spends just a ton of time in his company. But so the first one you mentioned was succession planning.
Yep.
And I know that as the second generation, so I'm second generation in our agency, the odds are stacked against the second generation typically. And what's the percentage? I'm sure there's a percentage associated with it.
30% of people get to the second generation.
30%.
So 70% fail, mostly because they don't have a succession plan.
Sure. Okay.
85% fail to get to the third generation.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
So, you're doing things right when you can get there, but there are strategies for getting there.
Sure.
Now, in your case, you were the only child in the business.
Sure.
With your mother. Sometimes you might have 2 kids in the business and 2 kids out of the business.
Sure.
How do you equalize? How do you take care of mom? And when is the parent ready to leave?
Sure. Gotcha.
So there needs to be a plan, and most people aren't expert at succession planning.
Right. And in our personal situation, we started that back in 2012 is when I bought the remaining stock of PCIA. But before that, we had kind of started that momentum. So yeah, that's been a good, anything else on succession planning that you'd share with?
Most people are busy putting out brush fires all day long if you're in business.
Sure.
So we try to help them with a forest fire.
Okay.
So they're consumed with day-to-day issues, but not necessarily taking a step back and saying, I need to resolve this. Right. Because you leave a mess behind if you don't.
Sure. So Norm, I'm 45. Should I be thinking about succession planning myself?
Well, there's 2 kinds of succession plans. One is what I call strategic contingency plan.
Okay.
That is, what if you passed away tomorrow?
Okay.
What's going to happen to the business?
Plan? Sure.
So you're never too young to do that kind of planning. And then the longer-term succession plan would be, all right, I want to work till I'm 65. Who's going to take over from me?
Sure.
You don't have to wait till you're 65, but you do want to plan if something happened to you tomorrow, because what about your employees?
Oh, absolutely.
What about your clients?
Right.
You want to take care of both of those groups and your family.
Sure. So what would you say for a company where there was, say, 2 or 3 owners? What kind of plan would you recommend that they have in place? Or actually, let's back that up. Let's say there's a single owner. We have many clients that they are the sole owner of the company. And then we've got clients that do $200 million a year in revenue and everything in between. But for those small firms, what would you say if they were the sole owner and they were in their mid-40s? What would be the plan there?
So they have maybe 3 or 4 choices.
Okay.
one thing they could do is just liquidate the business,
Okay.
which is not a good idea.
This would be the spouse.
Yeah.
Spouse. Okay.
Second thing they could do is make an arrangement with a key person or 2 or 3 key people that they will buy the business.
Gotcha. And that's
Maybe-
what I was looking for. Yeah.
You know, maybe that's done over a period of time. Or the third thing, they could sell to an outside person.
Gotcha.
Or the fourth thing is they could have the people run the business for your wife.
Sure.
You know, so what's the best way? People make better decisions when they see choices.
Sure. Right. So, you know, as an agency, we work only with engineering firms, architectural firms, CPA firms, law firms, technology firms. So all professional services. So for our law firm clients, I think it seems like most law attorneys are very good at having that second law firm in place that could take over for them if need be. I think CPAs typically do a pretty good job in that space too. I don't know about our design firms. I don't know if they've really pinpointed, hey, if something happens to me, I need Sally over at Sally's architectural firm to take over my projects and all of that type of thing. So I think that might be one area that they could be looking at. All right, so the very first one was succession planning and our top 6 ways to protect your business and family. What would be the second one? I think we had attract and retain staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a good memory so far.
Nothing wrong with a cheat sheet in front of me, you know what I mean?
So, you know, what's critical to businesses today are their employees.
Sure.
So right now it's very hard to get people to work.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to retain who you have,
Sure.
and you want to attract. Now, we get involved with all types of corporate benefits, group life, disability, health care, 401k, pension, profit sharing. For, you know, the employees, there are voluntary things they can do. You know, with COVID, how many people got sick? What kind of benefits do they have? So some people like golden handcuffs,
Sure.
where they take their key people and say, look, you stay with me, I'm going to provide you extra benefits.
And they would do that under what kind of a product?
So you can use insurance products
Okay.
that say are accumulation vehicles for retirement, but if they passed away, they get a death benefit for their families. So again, the 3 legs to the financial stool are what if they die,
Okay.
what if they're disabled, and retirement.
Sure.
Retirement, you have time to plan for. You have no time to plan for disability or death.
Right.
So we try to make everybody secure.
Sure. Is it safe to say that more people will plan for the death by having life insurance in place? And I still think that's an area where there's a significant amount of folks that don't plan even for that. But I think that one, if they're going to plan for something, that one's planned for. But isn't the disability the one that, I mean, we've got a much greater chance of becoming disabled somehow than we do dying.
Yeah, and disability is worse than dying because you're there consuming.
Sure.
Now, but life insurance, people spend more money going to dinner than they do protecting their families.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
So disability, if the companies don't provide it, then people should do it for themselves.
Sure. And that would be like a long-term type disability. Right.
Yeah, you could do it till age 67.
Sure. Right. So from a life insurance standpoint, 30-year-old with two children at home, any kind of guideline on what they should be considering from a life insurance or a disability?
So disability is limited to 60% of their compensation.
Okay.
In life insurance, you'd say, okay, what does the family need to live on?
Sure.
And if they need $50,000 a year, assuming a 5% return, they'd need $1 million of insurance. But $1 million on a 30-year-old might be $500 a year.
Sure.
For a 20-year rate guarantee.
Gotcha.
That's why I say they spend more money going to dinner. If they want $100,000 a year and they have a mortgage and education, then maybe they need $2 million of insurance.
Sure.
But it's affordable.
Right. And the higher the dollar value, it's not like the premium doubles because you bought a $2 million policy.
Right. The term insurance is what I was quoting, $500.
Sure.
There's permanent that they can have a savings feature. It goes forever, doesn't end. And so it's a matter of what can they afford.
Sure.
First, they've got to protect the income for the family.
Gotcha. All right. So attracting and retaining employees, that was number 2. So how about number 3? What do we want to go with there?
So with estate planning, the 30-year-old has 2 kids So if something happens to him, it's important to have the protection we talked about.
Sure.
But does he have wills and trusts? Who's the guardian? Assets could go to probate court. Kids are under 18 years old, so not too young to have wills and trusts.
Sure.
If they have children.
So without a trust, the government is going to keep what percentage?
So it's not so much estate taxes these days because the exemptions are high, although they're dropping.
Okay.
They're 11.7. They're dropping to 5 million in 2026. Biden is proposing a 3.5 million exemption. So, but it is an issue of durable medical powers.
Okay.
If somebody's on life support, you leave them there,
Sure.
take them off. Durable power of attorney. They can't make decisions anymore. Those are legal documents. Guardianship for the children. If you don't have a trust, you have probate exposure, but a trust provides for management assistance, distribution ages, things like that.
Okay, gotcha. So outside of the estate planning, so we talked wills, trust. What about titling?
Titling's very important. So let's say somebody has a business and it's in his name and it's not in his trust, it goes to probate court. So why involve probate, which might be a delay, might be extra costs, and public. So people want privacy if anything happens, and that's where trusts are helpful. But they need to title their assets properly. We help them with that too.
What does that mean, title the assets properly?
So the business stock that someone has, rather than being in their name,
Sure.
which goes to probate at death, if it's in their name as trustee, then let's say the wife is the successor trustee, it goes right to the trust.
Gotcha.
It's in the trust already.
I see.
No probate.
Sure. And that's something that your firm helps.
Yeah. And we coordinate with their advisors. They have their own lawyer or their own CPA, and we like to be collaborative in planning.
Sure. So with the planning process, what if someone's listening to this going, I really don't have our own attorney. I know an attorney, but I don't really have my own attorney. I mean, would you suggest that they call you first and just sit down with you first and then talk about who they need to get on their team, let's call it?
Yeah, we would be like drawing the blueprints up and bringing in the subcontractors to help.
Okay.
So if they don't have an attorney, we would help them with specialists.
Okay. I know you know a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So number 4, key protection planning.
Yeah, that gets into the life insurance, disability, long-term care. Have you protected the family the way they should be protected?
Okay.
And there's different ways to do that.
Okay. And expand on that a little bit for me.
So if they're a business,
Sure.
they can do a lot of planning through the business.
Okay.
If they're individuals, not retired, if they're retired or whatever, or they work for somebody, then they need to do their own planning to supplement what the company does.
I see.
So we study what they get and we determine their objectives and say, okay, what's the roadmap, financial roadmap to get you where you want to be?
Sure. And is it safe to say everyone's roadmap is going to be different?
It is.
It's almost like your fingerprint, right? Everybody's fingerprint's different.
Right. You should customize. There's certain basic wills, trust, titling, insurance, disability, etc., but really needs to be customized because maybe one of the kids has special needs.
Sure.
Maybe they need to help with their parents who need financial help.
Sure.
What's everybody's story?
Right. All right. So that gets us through key protection planning. That's die, disable, retire. I mean, all 3, right? All right. Number 5.
Investment planning.
Investment planning.
So, to be good at investing, you need 3 things.
Sure.
You need expertise, which most people don't have. You need time, which most people don't have. And you need interest, which you might have. So what is the best way to manage a portfolio? Some people might do it themselves. They might have a stockbroker. They might have a money manager. So we do a lot of diagnostics on what do they have? What's the goal?
Sure.
For retirement? What do you need to live on? And how should you invest your money in the interim?
Okay. So if someone's looking at this saying, I really do need to get into, and I'm interested in doing more investing, your company, Pappas Financial, they can, on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis, whatever the case might be, send a check to your company and have it invested once it's decided how it needs to be invested in that, and just make that kind of part of their routine. Is that safe to say?
In the early stages of their accumulation,
Sure.
That's a good way to do it. The money that they have in existence, though, needs to be invested properly.
Sure.
And most people don't want a roller coaster ride go up and down.
Right.
So what's a steady ride? And the market's pretty high, but could be higher too.
Sure.
So, how do you invest between growth companies, value companies, U.S., international, large cap, small cap, mid cap? What's the strategy?
Sure. And you do all of that.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
We get involved with income producing real estate, opportunities. So
Okay.
diversification is very, very important.
Sure. What would be an example of a real estate?
We like apartments.
Okay.
If the economy gets rough, shopping centers and office buildings suffer,
Sure.
but people still need a place to live.
Absolutely.
And here in Detroit, we're very short of apartments
Sure.
in the city. Even houses right now. Some people can't find houses to buy, and if you do, you're going to have to bid higher than the asking price with 12 other bidders.
Sure. I've got a lot of friends in the real estate space, and that's some crazy stories that I hear out there.
Oh yeah,
big numbers above asking, and waiving inspections, and all kinds of interesting things happening out there. All right, so how about number 6? What's our last one?
So in tax planning, we have people that are paying, let's say, more income taxes than they want to.
Sure.
So if they're a business owner, you could shelter income through a 401k plan, through a profit sharing plan. Then they have these special pension plans.
Okay.
So it's a matter of studying, what are you paying in taxes? What can you afford to put aside? And the more you can put aside, the earlier you can retire, if that's your goal.
Sure. So when I hear you say pension, I think, boy, I didn't even know pensions were around anymore.
Yeah.
I thought that was the thing that our parents or our grandparents even had. Those are still viable options.
Yes. In the past, most people worked for companies for their whole career.
Sure.
And the companies had pensions. Companies did away with pensions.
Yeah.
But smaller businesses can set up pension plans, and they have, because it's a way to shelter income and discipline for future retirement.
Awesome. Nice. All right, so there's our top 6. So we've got succession planning, attracting, retaining key staff, estate planning, which include wills, trusts, titling, key project or protection planning, and then number 5, how to manage money, and then 6 is planning. So
Taxes.
Taxes, okay.
Yeah, if you wanted to get back to estate planning, people are going to leave their money 3 places.
Sure.
So there's one planning area we didn't talk about. They can either leave their money to their family.
Okay.
They could have estate taxes, depending on the size, or they could leave money to charity.
Sure.
So we do a lot of charitable foundation planning with clients that have estates large enough.
Okay. Gotcha. So what would be the one thing that you would recommend if someone said, boy, I haven't done any of these things? What would be the first step you would recommend that they do within these 6?
Find a planner. It's never too late, never too early.
Okay.
Get someone who knows how to plan for their future. Everybody wants to be set for life.
Sure. So when you say find a planner, because it's interesting. Back when the recession hit, it seemed like a lot of people went into that planning space, right? And I got the calls too. I'm like, no. I knew you as the interior person, or whatever the case might be. But how would you recommend they go about finding and determining the right planner for them? Any suggestions there?
Well, they could talk to their attorney or CPA and see if they do that kind of planning. But it really wants to be, they may know people in the financial world.
Sure.
And then find out how broad they are, how family office they are.
Sure. So
or they could talk to Mike Cosgrove.
And I can put them in contact with some good people, right?
Right.
Like Norm Pappas. All right, gotcha. Yeah, I think that years and years ago, I went to a new gym. This was back in the Powerhouse days when Powerhouse gyms were around, and I think there are still some, just not in the Brighton area anymore. But I remember I went in and I was like, I need to get somebody just to show me some things for a while. And they had a number of trainers, and I'll never forget the gal pointing out the different trainers in the room. And she says, that guy over there, that John guy, he's been a trainer for us for about 6 months. And I looked at John and I thought, boy, John's got a beer belly. I don't want John training me, And then she went, person by person. And then you look at that trainer that's in real good shape and you're like, that's who I want to train. That's who I want to train with. So I think sometimes knowing the individual planner's background is also a good idea, right? As far as how long they've been doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything as far as best kept secrets, as far as the one thing you would say to people that you're like, hey, this is something people don't think about and they really should, something that maybe we've not, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot with asking this, but.
Well, people need to get organized.
Ooh, good point.
So they should make a list of all of their assets,
Sure.
how they're titled, and what do they want to have happen to those assets.
Sure. Gotcha. Yeah. When you say get organized, I feel like I live in this world of where people do a lot of Netflix watching, Hulu, whatever the case might be. Nothing against Netflix or any of those streaming shows, but I'm in that space where I say to people, can you maybe turn that off and focus on something that's going to propel you the direction you want to go? And I think I just was looking at a magazine, a business publication as of recent. And one of the things, each person that they interviewed, they were asking them, what are you currently streaming? It wasn't what book are you reading? What are you streaming? I mean, there's some good some good shows out there. Yes, but turn that stuff off. You shouldn't be doing that every day. That's just the space I live in. Any last words of advice or anything you'd like to share with the audience?
No, I think that everybody should take a step back and say, what do I need to do to get organized financially? And it'll be great for them. They'll be good parents for doing it. They'll be community citizens.
Sure.
And they'll just feel better.
Sure. Well, and you touch upon a really good point there, and I know you do a lot of this yourself, but giving back to the community, right?
Yeah.
I mean, giving back to the community, the better you do as a business or a business owner, the more you can give back to the community. And there's nothing better than that, right?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So, I've got this mug I've been drinking coffee out of, and it's one here in the studio. It says, get after it. You know what I mean? I'm a big believer in if you want it, you better go get it, because nobody's coming. That's what I tell my 18-year-old. Nobody's coming to tell you to turn your phone off. Nobody's coming to tell you to get out of bed. Nobody's telling you to pick up a book. I mean, this is all, we're adults here and we got to do those things. So again, Passing the Bucks is Norm's book here that he wrote. And I appreciate you being on the podcast with us today, Norm.
Hey, my pleasure.
So if folks wanted to reach out and get a hold of you, Norm, how would they do that? What's the best phone number to use?
248-539-8292 is the direct. Awesome. And Bree in my office will take care of them.
What's the website address?
The website,
Pappas.
I had that before.
Yeah. Well, it'll be in the links. It'll be in the notes of our podcast there, so you'll have it there. But it's Pappas Financial, Pappas, out of Farmington Hills, Michigan.
Yep.
And again, thank you for being here. It's been awesome.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Congratulations on all the great people you bring to your podcast.
Thank you. Trying to do something a little different out there. Thanks so much, Norm.
Oh, you're welcome.